It had been a long, silent night, one I spent waiting for her to come home. She said she was meeting friends, and I trusted her until messages from mutual acquaintances began to arrive. She wasn't just out for dinner or drinks. She had spent hours laughing, flirting, and lingering with another man. My stomach twisted as the truth settled in. The trust we had built unraveled thread by thread over an entire night of betrayal. When the first light of dawn slipped through the curtains, I waited, my heart pounding, knowing a confrontation could not be avoided. When she finally arrived, tipsy, careless, and smiling, I met her at the door. Without saying a word, I turned the key in the lock, leaving her stunned and frozen on the porch. The house that once represented comfort and love now felt like a fortress, and I had become its unyielding gatekeeper. Her shock was immediate, eyes wide, mouth opening in disbelief, words failing her. I didn't speak. I let the silence carry the full weight of what had happened. The betrayal was raw, undeniable, and echoed through every corner of the quiet home. She knocked on the door, tried calling, tried pleading, but I stayed silent. My sons, still asleep upstairs, were spared from witnessing the moment, though I felt the heaviness of what she had risked exposing. The night's laughter, flirtation, and careless intimacy had led to this exact outcome, her standing outside, powerless, as the consequences of her actions finally landed. I wanted her to feel the gravity of her choices without hearing a single word from me. The quiet authority of silence spoke louder than anger ever could, and I understood that some lessons are learned only when words disappear and reality becomes unavoidable. Hours passed, tension hanging like a storm cloud between us. Eventually, she slid down against the door, silent, her eyes filling with tears. Inside, I remained calm, my heart steady but my mind racing, processing the depth of the betrayal and the collapse of trust. What happened that night wasn't a single mistake. It was the result of lies, neglect, and decisions she had hidden for far too long. I felt something shift within me. Anger, pain, disappointment, and a firm resolve to protect myself and my family from further harm. I refused to be swayed by charm, excuses, or apologies. When she finally left, I locked the door with certainty, leaving no space for confusion or false hope. The house, quiet and still, reflected the truth. Some doors, once closed, do not easily open again. The betrayal had reached its breaking point, and I was no longer willing to participate in deception. Later that morning, my phone rang. Her name appeared on the screen, sending a chill through me. Reluctantly, I answered, expecting apologies, excuses, or even anger. But what I heard next shattered me completely. Her voice shook as she confessed a truth I had never imagined. The man she spent the night with wasn't a simple flirtation. He had been manipulating her for months, exploiting her insecurities and intentions, pushing her into a false front that hid fear and confusion. My anger and disappointment shifted into shock, disbelief, and an unexpected wave of sorrow. The laughter and betrayal of that night were not as simple as I had believed. They were tangled in a web of manipulation I had never seen. The story I had built in my mind about her choices suddenly felt incomplete, and I realized that beneath her reckless behavior was a quiet struggle I had overlooked. As she spoke, I sat in stunned silence. The betrayal I felt the night before collided with the realization that the situation was far more complicated than I had imagined. She wasn't only reckless, she had been caught in a trap, her emotions twisted and controlled. My frustration remained, but it blended with reluctant empathy, an understanding that I hadn't seen the full picture. The house, once a symbol of certainty and control, now felt fragile as I weighed the truth against the pain I carried. Her trembling, sincere voice pleaded for understanding, for the chance to explain, for me to recognize the manipulation for what it was. I realized that judgment without understanding was unfair, and the clarity I thought I had was incomplete. The shock of her revelation cut deeper than the betrayal itself, challenging my assumptions and forcing me to face uncomfortable truths. As she continued, layers of deceit, manipulation, and hidden motives surfaced. She explained how the man had carefully exploited her vulnerable moments, guiding her toward actions she now deeply regretted. Every word revealed fear, confusion, and a desperate need for validation placed in the wrong hands. My heart wavered between anger and sympathy. Knowing her actions, though reckless and damaging, were influenced by manipulation complicated everything. I had expected betrayal to be simple, direct, and personal. Instead, it was murky and unsettling. I had locked her out physically, yet now, I faced an emotional maze of accountability, understanding, and instinct to protect. The house stayed silent around me, reminding me that consequences, whether intentional or manipulated, echo in ways no one expects. Her confession forced me to confront my assumptions, making the aftermath far more complex. I stayed on the line, listening closely, piecing together months of tension, manipulation, and fear that led to that night. The shock lingered, mixed with disbelief at how deep and insidious it had been. Her tears and cracking voice exposed a vulnerability I hadn't expected, and I began to see the fragile human beneath the reckless choices. My anger didn't vanish, but it softened with the realization that blame was not entirely one-sided. I thought of my sons, our home, and the fragile balance between justice and understanding. This moment wasn't just about punishment. It was about reckoning, clarity, and navigating emotions I never anticipated. Her revelation reshaped the entire narrative, forcing me to confront new truths about trust, manipulation, and human complexity. When the call ended, I felt shaken, thoughtful, and emotionally drained. What once seemed clear had become a tangled web of deception, vulnerability, and truth. I understood that anger cannot exist without understanding, and that appearances often hide silent struggles. Trust is fragile, perception deceptive, and clarity demands patience. Though my wife's actions caused deep pain, the revelation left me questioning and reflective. A dawn that began with betrayal ended with a truth far more complex and humbling than I expected. Beneath the chaos were hidden truths demanding recognition, compassion, and careful navigation, lessons that would reshape our relationship and my understanding of trust forever.